We are halfway through the Western Conference Finals. We're going to break that game down from last night, as well as where the series is at. But we are 99.9% through the Eastern Conference Finals legs. We're still going to break it down and talk about what you're noticing. All that and more on today's All-NBA show. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllCity. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined on this Memorial Day by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler, who's in Cleveland calling the games and might get a little vacation time, might have a little bit of time off after tonight. We'll find out. How you doing, Legs?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Yeah, I mean, look, you go into these, you don't want extra time off. You want to have a great series that goes 6-7 games because there's more eyeballs on it, and it's just the intensity of it is why we do this. But at the same time, if they do sweep them, yeah, that's the byproduct. The organic byproduct of that is you get a few more days at home before you go on the road for the NBA Finals. I mean, look, obviously you're never going to say a team can't win a game, but if you think that a team should have been playing with a manic desperation, it would have been game 3. And I didn't really necessarily see that level of desperation out of the Cavs. So will you somehow be able to muster that down 3-0 when you should have had it down 2-0? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we're going to see tonight.
I mean, that really is the story, man. But we're going to get to that series after the break. We're going to do that in segment 2. We're going to talk about Legler's All-NBA selection. He had a ballot, so we'll see how his ballot lined up with the official ballot. But we are going to begin, as we always do. If you're new to the show, what do we do on the show? Break down the games. We talk about the games. That's the entire show. And we're going to do that in our FanDuel game breakdown. The one we're breaking down today was last night's game, the Spurs getting revenge. And really, we haven't talked about games 3 or 4, so we can kind of jumble them together. But last night's was game 4 as the Spurs punch back 103-82. Absolutely dominant performance from the Spurs on the defensive end. 82 points. Holding the Thunder to 82 points in this NBA is kind of wild. But that's what they did. They dominated it. Stephon Castle was incredible. Wemby was incredible. Where do you want to start, Legs? Like, what is, to you, the biggest reason that the Spurs were able to dominate game 4?
I will say this. Visually, when you watch games on television, rarely do you see a team defensively that jumps out in terms of how desperate they looked. And that was so impressive to me. And look, they're always a very good defensive team. But I'm telling you, nothing I've watched this entire season, including this entire postseason, has looked the way the Spurs looked just in terms of their level of intensity and commitment on the defensive end of the floor last night. It was like a bunch of dudes that had to win a game to pay their rent. Like that's what they looked like. It was so physical, so aggressive. And I think the thing that really stood out to me was the level of commitment to their sprint back initially on every single missed shot. And they were running 2-3 guys to the board. They were all over the offensive glass, and their guards are physical offensive rebounders. And that sometimes can lend itself to getting runouts and numbers in transition going the other way. Because when you send your guards, they're usually the guys that are at the top of the key backpedaling. They're the guys that are going to make sure you don't give up something easy. Their guards go to the offensive boards, Vassell, all of those guys. And so for them to crash the way they crash and then turn and sprint to the extent that they did to make sure they gave up nothing early, I mean, it was really, honestly, man, it was just awesome. And that for me was the first thing. And I noticed right in the beginning of the game, they didn't really get their separation until right before the end of the half. And it went from 5 to 12 in a minute. And that kind of set the tone for the third quarter. But it took a little while to actually get that separation. But that effort was there and noticeable from the very first possession of the game. And I guess that's, to me, was the biggest storyline from it. Was like, wow, that's all you could say. You almost felt sorry for Oklahoma City trying to find space.
It is funny, though, that resolve is kind of a storyline in this playoffs, because we have seen teams, and we're going to talk about one in the next segment, that hasn't shown a lot of resolve. But these playoffs are pushing teams to the brink. and the teams that are able to respond to huge punches, because they got punched in the mouth in game 3. So to respond to that with the performance, I mean, basically both games are blowouts just in different directions, was huge. But to me, Legs, the story is Stephon Castle and the defensive job that he did on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was unbelievable. This guy, like, I keep going back and forth about, I mean, I think Wemby is their best prospect and will be their best player for a long time to come. I think that part's easy. But I love Dylan Harper. I just am so high on what he can be. And then you see games from Stephon Castle like this and the impact that he has on the league's MVP, basically shutting him down. And you go, my God, man, they have 3 guys that are all not just star potential players, but superstar potential players. But that's the story to me, is that the Spurs were able to trust Castle to fight over screens and to stay in front of Shai one-on-one and to limit him to an inefficient game. And because of that, everything else defensively fell into place. And Stephon Castle, I'm not sure how many defenders in the NBA would have been able to pull off just the single game that he had in game 4. It was that impressive.
Yeah, and I think the reason it's even more impressive, when you dive into the numbers and the season that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had, it's one of the most impressive shooting performances in the history of this league by any perimeter-based player. 55% from the field, and most of those are contested pull-up jump shots, is mind-blowing. It's actually, even if you think about it that way, it's better than 55% because of the degree of difficulty on the shots he takes. He's 39% through 4 games. 39%.
39.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has not been in this territory. And a lot of it last night was due to Stephon Castle. And look, Stephon Castle has been a guy that, because he's so physical, he gets in foul trouble. He had 5 again last night, but he was able to navigate the foul trouble while still maintaining the physical presence and the size and the length and the commitment to guarding Shai. He took on the responsibility more than any other player on the floor. It does help that you can press up and play as physical as you want to because you've got Victor Wembanyama behind you. That's a luxury that very few perimeter defenders in this league have, to think about that level of rim protection. So, you can press up, but that doesn't matter. Shai is used to shaking guys that do that. He gets you off of him. He draws fouls. He makes tough shots. He was not doing it last night. He has not been doing it very much throughout this series, in large part to Stephon Castle. And Harper is just as committed. Castle's right now is a better defender because he's a little older. He's been in the league a little bit longer, and he's just got a better feel instinctively. Harper is a committed guy. He's strong. He's quick. He wants to play defense. They've got 2 guys kind of in that mold. Vassell competes defensively. Champagny competes. So no matter who you hand him off, Keldon Johnson, they all battle. And then you've got Wemby back there and Cornette when he comes off the bench. So they're just so impressive defensively, but I didn't think anybody was going to be able to limit Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to this level of efficiency. He just has shown you time and time again, season after season, series after series, game after game that has to be had. He's not prone to these types of games, and yet here he is. And look, last night you're missing a couple of key ball handlers. That absolutely affects him, but we're used to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander overcoming any set of circumstances, and he's not been able to overcome this level of defensive physicality. And so you're right. Stephon Castle's defensive job he did on him and the team job that they did on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the story last night. And really, honestly, it's been the story of the series because you're wondering, are they going to win this series if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander shoots 40% from the field? Even though they got 2 out of 3 at home, you just don't think that that's going to be very likely. So let's see what his answer is going to be going back to OKC, and can he have a more efficient night? He's only been at 50% once in the 4 games, and that was exactly 50%. All 3 of the others, he's been under 50 by a good margin. That's incredible to me because you just didn't think anybody was going to be able to slow him down to that extent.
Well, so we have all NBA stats and research here that says that Stephon Castle allowed 0 points on ISOs against Shai in that game, which is crazy. Did not give a bucket in ISO. When you talk about what a big part of Shai's game and the Oklahoma City game plan is, his ability to break you down one-on-one. 0 points in this one. And then the other one, Legs, is the big stat for Shai was the 20-point game streak. Just how he scores 20 every single time. He's done it for years. He has 2 games in this playoffs now below 20 points. Now, one of those was against the Lakers. They won by 30, so he just didn't play as, it wasn't needed. but he had 18 points. But last night was not the case, 19 points. And then he had one in the playoffs again last year that was under 20 points. So that tells you, how much of their offense is reliant on his ability to get them buckets. And when it doesn't happen, things slow down. But here's the deal, Legs. And you mentioned all the guys that took tries at him. I thought Devin Vassell was the guy that was the best relief pitcher, because Castle did a great job on him, but you still have to give him breaks. He's also important on the offense. You can't count on him just to guard 48 minutes doing that. And I thought Vassell did a great job on it. But the Spurs changed their game plan, and they changed it, I think, because it's something they would have done regardless. But when you lose AJ Mitchell and you lose JDub, those were the guys that can create secondary offense. And all of a sudden, if you say we're not going to start trapping Shai because Oklahoma City gets the ball popping, they find open guys, rhythm shots. If they say we're going to guard straight up, so there is no swinging. If you swing the ball, that guy's going to have to break a guy down one-on-one. The question is, can you stop Shai? If they're able to stop Shai like that and you don't have your secondary creators healthy and available, then to me, this series tilts back in favor of San Antonio. And so I ask you, did San Antonio, is this new coverage less overextending defensively, fewer traps, more guarding, just guarding guys? Is this a magic bullet for San Antonio if the Thunder do not get a healthy AJ and JDub back?
For the Spurs, it is. It's not like every team could pull this off. You have to have not only one guy that could do this, you've got to have multiple, 3 or 4 that are above average and 2 borderline great individual defenders with enough lateral quickness and length and size and strength to be able to guard him in that area of the floor that he loves, because you know what's coming for the most part. It's going to be like a shiftiness to try to get you to lean one way or the other. Then he's going to go the opposite direction. And as you retreat back to cut him off, he stops, leans into you, and leans back for an 18-foot jump shot. That we know what's coming. And then sometimes he'll mix it up, and then he'll hesitate and get to the rim and try to draw a foul or finish something at the rim. But for the most part, it's that middle area of the floor. He does it in a very specific way. He gets you off balance. Your weight shifts one way. He goes the opposite way, waits for you to retreat. You recover. He hits you as you're recovering, bumps you, leans back, shot, and it goes in 60% of the time. And he was not able to get that done in the game last night, or for the most part in this series, because they are not getting the degree of separation he is not that he normally gets. And when he does get it, he's made those shots. And one of them last night, even he made going to the left baseline, he got all kinds of separation. I don't maybe remember who the primary defender was. It might have been Vassell. But then Wemby came running from under the rim and put his hand up. And at the last second, Shai shot the ball like twice as high as he normally is. He still made it. Like, that's how great a player he is. But very few times has he gotten into that 6 feet of separation that he gets regularly and that he's used to and that he's counting on. And they are not letting that happen. Their timing has been great. Their anticipation of when to change directions has been great. They've got, and it can't just be one guy, because you're going to get tired, you're going to get worn out, and then he's going to go to work on you when you get fatigued. So you get fatigued, let's hand him off to Dylan Harper. He gets fatigued, let's hand him off to Vassell. Yeah. You've got multiple guys that can do it at a really high level. So yes, to answer your question, that is the formula for any team, if you can pull it off because of your personnel, and San Antonio has been able to do that.
And it's such a war of attrition, this entire playoffs is, because to your point, San Antonio has a depth of defensive guards and just perimeter players. That's what makes them special, all the guys you just listed out. But Oklahoma City has a depth of guards as well, both defensive and guys that can attack. But this is where even Oklahoma City, with all of their depth, maybe the deepest team I've ever seen in my entire life, the deepest team, and yet they lose 2 guys that fill a redundancy, JDub and AJ Mitchell. Remember, AJ Mitchell replaced JDub in the starting lineup. It's not just that you're missing 2 guys. It's that you're missing the 2 guys that are both your secondary shot creators. And what happens as a result? Alex Caruso in this game, 0 points. He's been such a big finisher, and like the guy that if the ball finds him, he can compound the advantage that you created in the half court. Well, all of a sudden you lose your secondary creators and he goes for 0 points on 0 of 1 shots. It's not even like he was getting shots. And so this is why I think game 4 is meaningful. Again, I think AJ Mitchell is going to be coming back in the series. We don't know about JDub. Will he be 100%? But this is where, one, you are able to cut off one thing at the top of an action, and the trickle down effect is the guy who's been the biggest X factor in the series ends up with one shot in his 14 minutes.
Well, and the reason, a big part of that is, you're alluding to it. Shai is going to be the initiator most of the time, but when he's been able to shift the defense, and that ball gets swung to an AJ Mitchell, Jalen Williams, their ability to then take it and then back into the gap to break down that shift. There's already less defenders on that side of the floor when the ball gets reversed, and now they take it into the paint. They're able to break a guy down. Now those last two guys on their team on the weak side are open shooters. Alex Caruso has feasted on some open threes in this series. He didn't get any last night because when there's only one guy like that, and by the way, his primary job, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, on a night when those guys are missing, is put the ball in the damn basket yourself. He's going to have to get 30 in that game probably to give them a chance without those guys. So he's not even looking to break you down and reverse it as much as when those guys are with him. He could trust a little bit more, swing it to two very capable ball handlers, initiators, guys who know what to do with the basketball because they've got the handle to do it. He's going to trust that a little bit more, reverse it. They get something good on the backside. When you take those guys off the floor, you're reversing it to limited players. And now San Antonio, with this incredible recovery speed, much like Oklahoma City, they have it too. They can help, hedge, make Shai play in traffic, and then still recover out because those guys are much more limited in what they can do with it, the first guy that catches it. When it's AJ Mitchell or Jalen Williams, those guys can go do something with it. It's a whole nother level of collapsing a defense, and what that leads to for guys like Caruso and Isaiah Joe and Jalen Williams, all these guys that are standing on the weak side, the shots are just higher quality. They're more in rhythm. It's not a coincidence. They didn't just have a bad shooting night, 6 for 33 from the three. No, the shot quality wasn't nearly as good.
Yes.
And that's because you're missing the next guy out of the traffic to go and really fully collapse the defense to make sure those shots are a half a count more time. Those guys need more time. They're not pure shooters, the guys we're talking about, maybe with the exception of Isaiah Joe. These guys aren't pure shooters. They need a little bit more time. And that time was taken away last night because they didn't have to overcommit to Shai as much. And when they did, they could recover out to guys that weren't going to put it back down on the floor and hurt you. It's a big, big difference in your offense. I don't know what's going to happen with Jalen Williams. He might be done. I mean, it's you look at him and you go, wait a minute, you have a hammy. You come back, you go out with a hammy. Those guys, when that happens, typically you don't see them again. So I don't know what's going to happen with him. AJ Mitchell sounds like he's going to be a game time decision almost.
Yeah, they called it game time decision last one, so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, weren't we all game time decisions? You know what I mean? Isn't every aspect of our lives game time decision? I mean, you know what I mean?
Are.
Who knows?
We're day to day,
I don't know what's going to happen with them, but they need them, man. They need them. They're going to be super hyped and energized at home, and so that's worth a tangible amount on both ends of the floor. But it's a formula. It's a formula they might not be able to overcome if they don't have another guy. And not only that, by the way, it's not just in the half court reversing it and those guys can go. It's also where the ball's outletted. It's like Shai doesn't have to get every outlet when those guys play. That's a big deal. The ball can get outletted to one of those other guards and they can go. You're not outletting the ball to literally anybody that was in the game last night other than Shai if you want something to happen early. You're just not. That's a big deal. That wears you out. And that means you saw it. Some of those pull-up jumpers that he was shooting last night were hitting front rim, man. That's a sign of fatigue and a sign of not having as much space and separation as you're used to.
Your point, though, about the secondary guys, you go home and you should be more comfortable. But to your point, usually that means you make more shots at home. Like your role players are more likely to hit the open kick out threes. Yeah. But in this game, they weren't getting open.
Well, that's what
shots.
I thought for the Cavs in game 3, too, was going to happen for Sam Merrill, Max Strus, and guys like that. So it's not always like, etched in stone that's going to happen.
That's true. But even if it does, the point was there wasn't a lot of open kickouts. What the Thunder need is they need somebody out that can create secondary pressure on the defense, and that's usually off the dribble. And that's more of a skill thing, not a comfort or confidence thing. It's, hey, AJ Mitchell and JDub do this thing. Who else can do it if those guys are not here? Maybe it's Jared McCain. Maybe it's Wiggins, but somebody is going to have to play above their station in terms of shot creation and advantage creation. And that's why I think the Thunder should be a little bit concerned about what happened in Game 4. The other reason they should be
the two guys that are most capable are Wiggins and McCain.
Yep.
Clearly. They're the two guys that are more than just standing around, wait, catch and shoot, and if it's not there, move it. Those guys can put it down. They can score off a ball screen. They can shoot pull-up shots. Wiggins has been really not much in the rotation, so he doesn't have much rhythm at all. McCain has been, and he goes 1 for 10. Those guys went 3 for 21 from the field. Two most important players in for Oklahoma City offensively, not named Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, went 3 for 21 from the field. Obviously, you don't expect that to happen again. So even if they have even still below average night, but it's not disastrous, Oklahoma City is going to have a great chance to win the game. If those guys just show up and make some shots, and each of them give them 4 or 5 field goals, as opposed to what they gave them. That 8, 9 field goals between the two of them as opposed to 3, that's an enormous difference. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with both of those guys. But they're the most likely if you don't have Ajay Mitchell out there.
We've gotten 20 minutes into this discussion, and we have barely mentioned Victor Wembanyama. Now, here's what's been most impressive about Wemby for me in this playoffs. His defense is obviously a given. It's just his rim deterrence. Last night was a rim deterrence game more than a rim protection one. He had 3 block shots, made some good plays, but again, it's more about teams can't get to him or are afraid to get to him on that end. But what's impressed me about him has been how impactful he is on offense. Some nights you're getting a two-way Wemby performance. Sometimes he dominates defensively. And I thought last night he dominated offensively with some of the pressure he put on the rim early on in the game. And you were talking about, I think the Spurs team is resilient. I think they're tough. But even tough teams still need a leader to sort of set the tone. And I thought early on in this one, he'd set an attacking tone. Go to the basket. He made some shots later on in the game, but go to the basket and put pressure on the rim. And I just thought he came out with the mentality of, I have to go be aggressive and everyone's going to be aggressive behind me. And that's just such a mature teams were after games 2 and 3, a lot of analysts were saying, okay, the Spurs are starting to look young. And I think you could make that case. They were losing and they looked like they were flustered. Game 4 was a very mature bounce back. And I thought it started with him on the offensive end and the pressure he put on the Thunder.
Well, he's had 2 monster games. They've won both. And I agree with you. And it shows we talked a lot about this with him. And the thing that has stood out to me from the very beginning when he first burst on the scene, and this is after you'd seen tape of him, and it was kind of like this incredibly unique thing, but then you never really didn't know much about him. You didn't hear him talk or speak or watch his work ethic or whatever. The fact that he's just from day one just basically owned responsibility for who he is and the expectations he has for himself. He's always talked about it. He's never run from it. He's never shied away from it or ducked it. He knows what he's here and what he's supposed to do and what his legacy should look like by the time it's all said and done. He absolutely embraces it. So that's a great sign of leadership and maturity and just an easy guy to coach because he's a self-starter. And you knew he was going to come out with that super aggressive mode. So that's 74 points in games 1 and 4, 2 wins. His mindset was so aggressive from the beginning of this game. And look, OKC wasn't winning this game. They just the way that San Antonio looked, Oklahoma City wasn't going to win the game. But that little stretch at the end of the first half killed them, and capped off by Wemby making that half-court shot. It went from 5 to so it's a 5-point game. OKC had the ball with 55 seconds left, and they go in down 12. That's really hard to do, actually, for the Thunder. And then they came out, and it was 18 before you know it in the third quarter, and pretty much stayed there the rest of the night. That stretch did them in. I thought his aggressiveness offensively was special, and he put a lot of pressure on them. He caught the ball. He got to his spots. He didn't settle. Impressive, man. There's no other word for it. They took advantage of a situation. Oklahoma City was shorthanded, and San Antonio was like, this is a game that we not should win, must win. This is a game 100% that we have to win. If you're rolling out there and you're missing 2 guys like that, and we're down 2-1, we have to play in this maniacal state of energy. And they did it the entire time. And here you go. Now it's best of 3. OKC, hangs their hat on the fact 2 of those 3 will be at home if they get to a 7th game.
Well, let me just ask one last question before we get out of here. Who do you think has momentum? Does any team have momentum right now in the series? I would lean towards the Spurs because the Thunder, they have two players that are kind of in doubt. So I feel like the Spurs have momentum, but we are going back to OKC for 2 out of 3.
Spurs have momentum clearly because whenever a team basically endures an ass kicking to the extent that Oklahoma City did last night, you've lost momentum. Now you've got, like I said, if you can get it 7, you've got 2 out of 3 at home if you need it. That's what you played all season for. They've got it. So they have that, but there's no doubt as this series shifts, San Antonio is looking at this team and saying, if we can just replicate and bottle the level of desperation that we just played with, we're going to be in good shape. That's what I'm looking at that film. I'm Mitch Johnson. That's my message, because it's so obvious when you watch it, when that team gets in the film room and they watch that game, that's going to be a level of intensity that they know if they play with that, they're going to be in good shape. But like, as we know, teams don't typically do that back-to-back games or every game in a series. There are going to be let-ups. And let's see how close they can come to replicating that level of energy.
All right, well, let's take a break. On the other side, we'll get your notes from the series that you're covering. Maybe slightly less interesting from a competitive standpoint, but these Knicks are starting to feel a little special, and I want to find out if Legs agrees and what he is noticing as he watches them up close and personal. We'll do that on the other side. Are underway, and it's the most electric time in basketball. And Kaushi, you can trade every single playoff game, every series, the conference finals, and the championship. Right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are trading at a 49% chance to win the NBA title. I'm so surprised by this. New York's at 27%, San Antonio's at 27%. If you're really crazy, Cleveland, below 1%. Why would you ever do that? I'll be honest with you guys. I bought out of my position on San Antonio when Dylan Harper got hurt. Actually made a little bit of money, so that worked out for me, but I might buy back in now that Ajay Mitchell and JDub, I don't know about their health. The numbers seem pretty good right now for that position. And Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position for a limited time. Download the Kalshi app and use code ALLNBA, all one word, ALLNBA. You get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI, Kalshi, trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. I also want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. I'm heading to the pool after this. Memorial Day, going to go to the pool with the family, with the kids. So you know what I'm bringing. Bringing my Shady Rays. I've actually got 2 pairs in my car. I've got one right here on my desk, actually. I've got a couple all around the house, one in my backpack. Why? Because they have durable, good-looking, polarized, not stupidly expensive sunglasses, but they have this incredible deal where if you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no guilt trip, just replacements. So you can wear your sunglasses without fear on hikes, at concerts, on a boat, to the pool, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. Go to shadyrays.com and use the code ALLCITY. This is important, guys. ShadyRays.com and use our code ALLCITY, all one word, for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Back here on the All NBA Show, segment 2. If you're enjoying the show and our breakdowns, make sure you hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed. Legs and I are doing this 2 times a week. We got Mark Stein 1 time a week, and then, of course, Jason Timp 1 time a week as well. So 4 great shows for you. Let's go back to Saturday, the game you were calling. And the Knicks just dominated the Cavs, 121-108. We talk about resiliency. I don't even know how exciting this game is to break down, to be honest with you, Legs, because the Knicks have just here's where I'm going to start. The New York Knicks have broken the will of 3 teams. First round, 61-point lead against the Atlanta Hawks in that closeout game. Just complete dominance, submitted them. Sixers, game 4, it's a sweep, but game 4, the Sixers look like they can just completely quit on the series, like they were hopeless. Their will was broken, and that was a blowout. You go to that last night's game, and that, to me, looked like a Cavs team whose will was broken. Sometimes this is a superpower of a team. They're not just good, they know how to break you. And right now, the Knicks are 3 for 3, it seems, in breaking teams.
They wear you down, Adam, because they very rarely will you see a team with all 5 starters in this kind of rhythm.
Yep.
And so as a result, you can't really expose anybody in that starting lineup. They tried it in game 2 when they basically said, you know what? After what Brunson did to them at the end of game 1 in that comeback, when they played him straight up all those possessions, and then, he got some help late, they said, all right, we're not letting that happen again. We're going to shade the side of the floor in game 2. Where everywhere he goes, we're going to run a couple extra guys over there, give him something to look at. You know what they did? They said, we're not going to guard Josh Hart. All right, Josh Hart had 26 points, made 5 threes. And it got to the point of absurd that they were leaving him to that extent. I'm talking about 15, 20 feet of space, nobody rotating to him. Come on, the guy's an NBA player, and he did shoot 41% from the three-point line this season, which is a career high. Even though he has struggled in the playoffs, that was the decision they made. They never really adjusted to it, even after he made a couple. He ends up making 5. He was the headline of the game. So they tried that. And then you go into game 3, and it's a little bit of both. They kind of gave Brunson different looks, and it was across the board. Mikal Bridges has another game, 11 for 15. So that, to me, is why they're wearing you down. Number one, they're doing it on both ends. This is elite offense and defensive efficiency at the same time. And it's across the board. It's not just Brunson. It's not like their best players going off every night. Not even their best 2 players. It's everybody is playing well. Their bench comes in and hits timely shots. Shamet he's 6 for 7 in the fourth quarter and overtime from the 3-point line, and he's barely played. And he was told he wasn't going to play in this series going into it. And he's 6 for 7 in really big moments, like to end games. So it's everybody, and that wears on you, man, particularly at exactly the same time. None of the role players for the Cleveland Cavaliers can make a 3-point shot to take some of the pressure off of Harden and Mitchell. And so when you add it up, man, you get a team that sort of succumbs and submits to the moment, which is what Cleveland did in the second half of game 3. That's not enough of a fight for your life to stay alive in a series and win a game. It wasn't evident. It was decent for about a quarter and a half, maybe even the whole first half. They're in the game. But again, third quarter, 2 games now in this series, the third quarter has been like lights out. They come out of the locker room. The Knicks are still in that mode that they are when this game started. The Cavs start getting casual. And before you know it, it's a 15 to 20-point game, and it's over. So the fight wasn't evident to me, not enough. And I think it's because they got worn down by how good the Knicks are playing offensively, all the shots that are going in. At the same time, they can't make one to save their life.
I think the most important trait for a team that this playoffs is revealing is that how well do you know yourself? Going into a playoffs, and by the time you get halfway through the playoffs, you should know yourself so well because they can play. The Knicks have proven now that they can shapeshift different identities on the fly and still execute at an extremely high level. Just clear out and let Brunson go one-on-one. That's obviously the base of their offense. It has been for years. They know how to do that. Play through Karl-Anthony Towns like they did early on in these playoffs, and he's the fulcrum, and everybody's cutting and moving off ball. They've been able to do that. And then this 5 out, they're basically, but you put Shamet in the lineup, you could play 5 out, and everybody, to your point, it's connection. Nobody is stepping outside the lines, holding the ball for too long, or dribbling one too many times. Everybody just is making their quick reads and executing and trusting that the next guy will finish the play if you get it to him. That's 3 distinct styles that they've been able to play because their core identity is solidified. They know how to trust each other. And as a result, to your point, I think this is what you're talking about is defensively, you hope that you can force somebody into something tough. When a team has an answer for everything, you just have to make every margin matter. Then, okay, it's not going to be easy. They're going to get good looks. Just make them the hardest looks possible. And that is exhausting over time because you never get that run where they go 3-4 possessions without scoring. And that's what it looks like the Cavs are at right now. They're discouraged because their best effort can only make things for the Knicks uncomfortable. They can't stop them.
Very true. And look, they started the game with I think 2 layups, a wide open 3 for Cat, and then another layup. That's how the game started. Mikal Bridges is on one of the great heaters, and I mean this. This is not hyperbole at all.
Yeah,
this is one of the greatest shooting stretches by a wing player in the history of this league. And every night you think it's going to be a normal night. So you can kind of take these stats that I keep writing down going into every game for him that are mind-blowing on this shooting streak he's got going on, and you think, okay, tonight's the night he'll go 3 for 13, and then I won't bring this up again because it's like over. So to my point, he is now, and where are my notes here? So going into the last game, over the previous 7, 56 for 82 from the field. which is 68%.
So
and
it's
I'm
up
thinking,
to
okay,
60,
well, maybe
it's up to
tonight's the night.
69% now, Leg. So after last night, 8 games, up to 69%.
Right, 67 for 97 now, because now he goes 11 for 15 in the last game. He actually bumped it up 2 points.
Insane.
It's almost impossible to do how well this guy's playing right now. And what's crazy is people were freaking out on Mikal Bridges by game 3, 4, 5 of the Atlanta series. They're talking about they gave up all these picks for this guy. Get him out of here. Fire Mike Brown. Like, people were flipping out down 2-1 in that series. Look what's happened since then. The guy's barely missed a shot. He's playing out of his mind. Everybody on this team is. Mike Brown has made some great adjustments to this team. He's coached his ass off. And so all that stuff went away pretty quickly. But Mikal Bridges, to me, is just like what happened for him by changing their offense to the extent that they did. He wasn't waiting around as much, spotting up, waiting on Brunson to exhaust some sort of pick and roll option as much, because they give it up earlier. Brunson goes and cuts down to the baseline, sets a screen. They get guys on the weak side cutting. That's Bridges' game. He's really good at that, man. The off-ball cuttings, coming off a screen, getting downhill, catching the ball, finishing at the rim, getting out of transition, throw it ahead to him, let him play. He's really good and really talented in those scenarios, and that's been his opportunities. And then he's made a lot of tough lean-back, pull-up jump shots as well to go with it. So you add it all up, and he's got this incredible streak going with shooting the basketball. And it's just so demoralizing the way that they're playing offensively. Think about this, Adam. They are now 11-2 in the postseason, and they have lost 2 games by 1 point each.
Yeah.
If CJ McCollum makes 2 big jumpers in the 2 games in the Atlanta series, if he doesn't make those 2 shots, this team's 13 and this team's like undefeated in the postseason, 11-0. All right. So it's 11-2 instead with 2 close losses. And they just have a look of a team that has found the absolute best version of what they could ever hope to be in real time, right in front of our eyes, with the most important games coming your way. And to me, that's why it's a 3-0 situation. You're going in tonight and you're thinking, like, usually you think it's over for the most part when teams get up 3-0. But you also go, you know what? It can be human nature to kind of let up a little bit, and maybe the Cavs have a much better shooting night and they get a win. The Knicks have this look about them. They understand the seriousness of being consistent and not taking their foot off the accelerator. And so I think they're going to come out incredibly focused tonight. And we'll see how much fight and pride do the Cavs have to try to get a win and get this thing back to New York.
What do you expect? What do you expect from the Cavs? Because I'll be honest, there was a play, I think it was the third quarter, and I know you'll remember the one I'm talking about, where Brunson comes over along a screen, kind of snakes it back to the other side, and then realizes that nobody's chasing him and the help defense is just kind of quit on the play. And then he walks to the basket and scores. Of course, a quick timeout from Cleveland. But that to me looked like a play where you're like, that team doesn't have it in them then. That, like, those types of plays don't happen to a team that still has belief. Sometimes you call it quitting. I think it's belief. They didn't have belief that they had any reason to be still on the court, and so they gave up an easy layup.
I think that's the best word right there. And that's the word that's been circulating around and just conversations that you hear and what you're watching. I mean, that play was embarrassing, obviously. It was sort of like that, that's the play that you can post and as a microcosm. Is this team desperate enough, man? Do they have enough fight? I think it's more than that. I think it is belief. And look, I'm going to give the Knicks credit in this regard. The Knicks are taking away the belief. This isn't like they went into it and they don't really believe in themselves. The Knicks are absolutely taking it away from them with how clean they are playing, how hard they're playing defensively. It's one of the top-rated I can't remember. They're number 1 in one end of the floor, number 2 in the other, and I get them confused all the time. I think they're 2 in offense, 1 in defense rating in the postseason. Yeah. So it's like the totality of all of that combined with this. Pretty incredible statistic. In the 3 games, Adam, the Cavaliers have missed 44 threes in the first half of 3 games. Do you know how different your night's going to feel if you get these guys making shots in the first half of the game? That's 15 misses on average in the first half alone from the 3-point line. So if you did it for an entire game, you're missing 30 threes a night. Okay, that's how 29% in the first half of these games. And the reason I say the first half is so important because it sets the tone, man. It sets the tone for your night as a shooter. It sets the tone for how they have to guard Mitchell and Harden and their bigs. Everything is connected to the three-point shooting. And when you shoot that poorly night after night after night, you're not forcing Mike Brown or the Knicks to adjust to anything. They don't have to come up with anything different. They don't have to call timeout because Merrill, Strus, Mitchell, Dean Wade just strung together 4 straight threes. And now you're like, okay, timeout. Let's figure out what we're going to do different. They don't have to make any adjustments because guys aren't making shots, and they don't have to adjust until they do. So the shooting in the first half has failed this team. They have failed them. It's the one shot you had in this series. It differentiated you from the Knicks in a way because you shoot more, you should make more, and they just have had too many guys go cold at the same time. And as a result, man, they're just going into halftime. No one's feeling great about themselves at all offensively. And it's a matter of time. Even if they're in the game at halftime, it's a matter of time before the Knicks have been hitting them with this run. And that's when you see the shoulders drop, the concentration goes, and now it goes from 12 to 20. And so the best formula for the Cavs to get a win, or at least be in the game in the fourth quarter tonight, the formula has to be some of those open looks. And these are good shots. Some of these open looks have to go in, man, at a much higher degree. You need 8, 10 3-pointers made in the first half. Give yourself a chance going in where more guys feel good about themselves, and maybe the Knicks have to think something through. Right now, they don't have to think about anything. Just show up, play. We're great on both ends. You guys aren't doing enough to make us to change anything. That's been the approach. The Cavs, it's incumbent upon them to change it. Force change. They can't. Right now, they haven't been able to. We'll see what happens tonight.
I do wonder if a loss might be actually good for the Knicks. They have just been in such a groove and are just winning so easily. The finals don't start till next Wednesday, legs. I know it's great to get time off and you have some guys that are banged up, but the next round, whether it's San Antonio or Oklahoma City, is going to be completely different than anything they've seen. Do you think there's any concern? I shouldn't say concern because you're going to win. You want to win. You want to get off your feet. But is there any concern that they could have 9 days off and just kind of had an easy test in the conference finals before going up against a juggernaut in the finals?
I mean, I hear what you're saying, man. It's a tough one. But the only thing I'll say is this. My theory is this. Play as few games as you have to because look at what goes on around this league with injuries. So just by sheer math, an additional 48 minutes to get the series over with is 48 more minutes. Somebody comes down with a high ankle sprain. Somebody has a calf strain. Somebody has a hamstring strain, whatever. So for me, I hear what you're saying. And I mean, it might be like that final, not that it seemed like they need one, but it's like you talk about a pretty good smelling salt for a team losing this game and having to go back and you didn't get it done. You didn't have that sense of killer instinct that Mike Brown would like to see. Yeah, there's probably something that you could gain of value from that. For me, 48 less minutes that you have to play is a good thing, even with the 9 days off that they potentially could have if this series, they will no matter what, because the series isn't getting moved up. No matter what happens in the West, you sit back, you watch the West teams beat each other up. You're sitting there waiting. Yeah, I mean, okay, I hear what you're saying about that long of a layoff and not really being tested to manage late games other than game one. I hear you. They haven't had enough of that. I get it. No, man, for me, it's get this over with if you're the Knicks, if you can, because it's one less game you have to play and one less fluke thing that can happen to your teams. I almost feels like that's the only thing that can derail this team offensively right now.
It almost reminds me of, this is a cross-sport reference, but the Rockies made the World Series in 2007, and they did it by sweeping first, second, and third rounds. And they had like 10 days off and then got swept by the Red Sox in the World Series. And sometimes it's like you have a team finds connection, and that's what the Knicks have. They just have this incredible connection, and you just worry about losing that because it's such a rhythm thing. And the longer you go without it, it makes me wonder, will they find that rhythm again? But you know what? They did in the last round, swept, took a week off, and found that connection immediately again.
So real quick, my last point on this series and the Knicks, what you just said sums it up about this team. And there's two things happened for me that got them to this level. First was the change in their offense that they made with Karl-Anthony Towns, because it's interesting because his shot numbers are down. His scoring is down. Okay, and that's what we talked about all season. Every time we did the Knicks games, we talked to Mike Brown. It was always about Cat, and it just didn't seem the same for Cat. Well, you know what? His numbers are down. His shot attempts are down. His touches are up dramatically, And so he feels far more empowered. He's included. He's getting credit for it. He's happy as hell, even though he's shooting less. And that is rare for an all-star player. Typically, you know what happiness equates to? More shots, more points.
Right.
That's what guys want to do that are all-stars in this league. So that was the first thing. That has changed the way he feels about his importance in this team, and then getting Bridges going. Because now it's like you don't have that one guy that's in your starting lineup that's still struggling. Because I said this, if they closed out the Atlanta series in that game, that blowout game they had, and they win that game by 40 like they did, but he goes 3 for 13, you're carrying his mind into the next round. And who knows like when he's going to snap out of it. Him snapping out of it in that way on a night when they're celebrating the winning the series, and he also felt great about himself, which he hadn't in that point to that series, carried right into the next round in the Philly series. And it hasn't stopped since. So those two things to me are giving you this broad spectrum about how good this team is across the board. And that's why we're watching this team, like I said, hit their peak and play their absolute best at exactly the right time.
Yeah. You want a crazy stat? This comes from All NBA Stats and Research. Cat and Hart both have more assists and fewer turnovers than Harden and Mitchell in this series. More assists, fewer turnovers than those two guys, and they're not even the main part of the Knicks' offense.
I like that one. I got another stat for you from game 2.
Okay.
Josh Hart in that game made more threes than Sam Merrill, Max Strus, Donovan Mitchell, and Dean Wade combined. Okay, how are you supposed to win? How are you supposed to win? Josh Hart's the guy you want to leave. He makes more threes than your best 4 3-point shooters. Good luck.
Wild,
Good
man.
luck.
Well, Legs, let's wrap up today's show by talking about the All-NBA teams. They dropped the other day, I think on Sunday. And so we can talk about them with relation to who you voted for. So I'll give you the first team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham. How did that match up with your first team ballot?
I think just about everybody had those first 4. The argument and the thing that people were fighting over, the dilemma in their mind, was the Cade versus Jaylen Brown argument. I went with Jaylen Brown. I just thought without Jason Tatum, I knew the Pistons were going to be really good. Cade Cunningham had a great year. There's no doubt. When you looked at the Boston Celtics going into the year with not only not having Jason Tatum, the other changes that they made to their roster, I thought that was going to be a 500-ish type team. They ended up as a 2 seed. Jaylen Brown averaged just under 30 points a game. He put that team on his back every night. He's also an elite defender. I just thought, relative to expectations, that Jaylen Brown deserved that last spot, just slightly more than Cade Cunningham. So I voted for Jaylen Brown, but obviously enough people disagreed with that, and Cade got it. And I just think what it came down to was, I think for most people, it was probably so close in everybody's mind. The people that voted for Cade, I think it was the whole, hey, man, that's the 1 seed, 60-win team. I think that's really – and they have some guys on that team a little bit offensively limited, so he's got some response. But I looked at Boston the same way. Peyton Pritchard was their second leading scorer. Did you see that going into the season? I thought it was an incredibly – by far the hardest decision of all of the votes that you have to cast as a voter was that exact decision. Cade Cunningham or Jaylen Brown for first team. I went with Jaylen Brown.
And it was really close, 414 points for Cade, 384 for Jaylen Brown. So they both got, almost the exact same number of votes. Second team, Jaylen Brown, Kawhi Leonard, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, Jalen Brunson. How's that match up with your second team?
Say that again. You said that kind of fast. Slow it down.
Sorry.
Say it again.
Jaylen Brown, Kawhi Leonard, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, Jalen Brunson.
Okay, so my second team had obviously Cade Cunningham. She talked about that. Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell. And I actually had Kevin Durant and Jamal Murray on my second team.
Okay. So Kawhi Leonard was off. He was on, I'm guessing,
I had Kawhi Leonard on my third team.
Okay. And
I had the exact same 15 players as actually got named. I had the exact same 15 guys. I just didn't have exactly the same order. So, that tells you there everybody's kind of was in the same mindset of who are the players that deserve to be on this.
Yeah, Jamal Murray instead of Kawhi Leonard and Jaylen Brown instead of Cade Cunningham. All right, that's pretty sharp.
So that left Chet Holmgren, Jalen Johnson, Jalen Duren, Kawhi Leonard, and Tyrese Maxey on my third team.
Yep. So you got all the same guys, just a slightly different order, which I saw some people talking about, because I think Luka Doncic received a couple third-team votes, and I saw some people saying, like, how could you do this? They need their votes revoked. One thing I'll say is I kind of hate the way that ballots, MVP ballots, and everything else has become like hive mind, and people hate if there's any differentiation. I care if we get it right. I want the overall thing to be right, but if there's disagreement, like how yours have some guys first, some guys second, some guys third, to me, that's how it should be. It's actually, we should have a dichotomy of thoughts, a wide range of thoughts, as long as
you're 100%.
Right,
and I think this is probably the biggest, not the biggest. There's a lot of negative downside to social media, a lot more negative than positive in my mind. But one of the things is this: it's like when you praise a player for whatever reason, you automatically, somehow, some way, people are connecting the dots that you're trashing another player.
You're hating.
That's to me the biggest negative of social media. And the narrative created, headlines get created that's like not even remotely in context with what you said, but by, for instance, me making the case for Jaylen Brown. Okay, even if you are saying nice things about Cade Cunningham, people that in the Cade Cunningham of the Pistons camp, then they think somehow you're trashing Cade Cunningham. It's so ridiculous. To me, it's incredibly immature. That's really what it is. These aren't adults in the room that are having these reactions. These are people that are overly emotionally invested in players and teams, that they can't listen to a rational argument, because I just said it, both guys were deserving of first team. You have to come up with what is your criteria that tips the scales in one direction or the other. As long as you have a valid case and make a good argument, there's no wrong answer. It's very subjective. And for me, I nodded toward Jaylen Brown. That's not me in any way, shape, or form denigrating Cade Cunningham, but that's not what they do out there. People that want to stir this stuff up. It's crazy.
Well, I would never hate on Cade Cunningham the way you had on this very show. I would never hate on him like that. I would never. Who else did you hate on?
Unbelievable.
I know. It's just not how I operate. I would never hate on Kawhi Leonard the way
this takes me back to the early days of the show when I would regularly put you in this spot. Like I would make you say something and I was like, I can't believe you're saying this about the others. I used to do that to you all the time. Maybe I should get back to doing that to you, actually.
I just want to apologize to all of our Pistons fans out there. Leg's a little biased. He hates the Pistons. He hates them. I don't know what to tell you. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. You guys can catch Legler on the call tonight. It could be a closeout game 4 for the Knicks, or it could be a surprise. And I'm saying it would be an absolute surprise if it happens, if the Cavs punch back. But I'm rooting for it because I want more basketball. And I want more basketball to talk about. You can catch him tonight, ESPN. Is it ABC or ESPN?
Tonight's ESPN.
ESPN. All right, you can check him on the call.
The ABC game of the series was Saturday. So ESPN the rest of this series, and obviously ABC for the finals.
Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. We're back on Wednesday. Hit the like button. We'll see you then.
We all silly like the mayor.